Discover solutions to issues that affect your family and professional life with practical information to help you get past life's adversities. Take a proactive approach to power up your life with Rosalie's expert resources.
It's time to uncover your beauty and style equation and update your new look for a new year. So how do we craft our new look? And remember, we have options. One is less is more. When it comes to makeup trends, just ask the dynamic duo, dermatologist Dr. Cheryl Burgess and renowned style expert Amy Salinger. They join us this morning to share quick and easy tips for women of any age to make the new year the most stylish ever. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Amy, what are some new makeup trends for women 20 and older?
Less is more, and women really have to remember that, especially as you get older. Caking on makeup really only shows off the lines that are possibly in your face at that age. So it's important to use light things such as a BB cream. It's got a nice tinted moisturizer in it typically, and it adds a little bit of sparkle.
What are the top tips to ensure your look is done but not overdone?
Caking on the makeup, it fills in the lines and it actually accentuates the lines. And so particularly down in Florida and the southern states where it's really sunny and people are squinting and creating certain movement in the face, there's sometimes a line that develops, or more than one line, that develops between the brows, and this can easily be minimized or the muscle relaxed by a product called Xeomin. And Xeomin will create a smoothness in through this area, which that's one less place where the makeup has to get caught in between.
All right, Amy, so what is the general rule based on age and body type to wear sparkly clothing?
Yes, very important. I think, not just makeup, but also with style, it's important to be the best dressed, the most beautiful, and obviously you want to feel beautiful walking into any room, but not be overdone. And that's really about kind of focusing on your age, your body type, and working within trends that are acceptable for you and your age and your body type. You want to make sure you focus on proper fit and making sure your garment really is snug to your body but not tight. And also make sure it's not too loose. A lot of people tend to buy things too big, and unfortunately all you're doing is actually adding pounds. And of course, when it comes to makeup, a simple way, aside from having fabulous skin, to look amazing is to do a little bit of a fake eyelash. If you're new, if you're a beginner, I understand it can be a bit daunting. Don't go with the individual lash, go with a full panel. All you need to do is trim it to make sure it's the same size as your eyelash lid, and practice before you're going out.
So, doctor, how do we ensure our healthy skin stays glowing?
The number one skin care cosmetic product that is out there, or it has been renamed as the best cosmetic cream, is sunscreen, believe it or not. And in Florida, I know people come there for vacations or they live there year round. I probably see more sun damage from those southern states than the northern states.
Thank you, ladies, for offering advice to balance our new look to help us feel and look our best.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Each year, millions of Americans make New Year's resolutions to be more financially responsible. According to a recent Merrill Edge report, only 23% of respondents feel proud of how they handled their money last year, and 50% said they are content with the financial decisions they made last year. Here to help us set spending goals in the new year is Amanda Steinberg, founder of Daily Worth. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here with you.
I love the name of your company, Daily Worth.
We do, and there's a real connection between our self-worth and our net worth, so that's what we're focused on.
Why do so many Americans struggle to stick with their New Year's resolutions?
Well, first of all, we're habitual creatures as humans, and it is really, really hard to break habits. But I also think it's because, we start off the new year with this fresh idea, and we also may be panicked about the amount of debt that we have. But then we might fall back into our money comas, and we realize that we develop those habits without really understanding why. So I think it's really important that we it's not just about changing your habits, but it's also about changing your identity and not just thinking of yourself as a spender where there's something wrong, but identifying with saving money.
What easy steps can you offer before planning our financial goals?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is release all of the shame and guilt that you have. If you do it from a place of not liking yourself and being angry at yourself, chances are that it's not going to be a positive experience for you. The second is to really reframe how you look at money, not as a source of anxiety, but really a source of freedom and choices in your life. Those are really critical before you set the planning for yourself, because they're what create your state of mind. But then as far as planning is concerned, really pick 3 goals for yourself. It's a good idea if one of those goals has to do with how much debt you're going to pay off that year. And then the other one is setting up an emergency fund, because even saving cash, even just saving a little bit more cash than you might think you need, is the best protection that you have against debt.
All right, how do you stop the continuing cycle of spending and then struggling to pay last year's debt during the new year?
Well, I think goal setting, of course, is very, very important. And then the second thing is really getting clarity about your financial life. For example, you can go to merrilledge.com in order to get a streamlined view of all of your finances. A lot of us, again, I use that term money coma because we live inside of this bubble, like we don't even want to look. You don't even want to look. But once you do look and you have clarity, you go, oh, wow, this is something I can actually tackle for myself.
Thanks, Amanda, for your financial advice to achieve our financial goals in the new year.
Thanks so much for having me.
Many families struggle working to achieve legal citizenship. Changes to reform our nation's immigration system are complicated. The American Immigration Lawyers Association, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization of over 13,000 attorneys and law professors who practice and teach immigration law, recognize President Obama's executive action on immigration will impact undocumented immigrants. Joining us this morning is Leslie Holman, president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning.
Leslie, tell us, how will these changes impact current deportation and removal policies?
Changing our priorities with regard to deportation. It's going to concentrate on those people who are dangerous, who put us in fear, and it's going to not concentrate on those who need to be here to be united with their families and who will help our country benefit economically.
Our immigration system is so complex, so how will those who work with visas continue?
For the people who have been here, if they have U.S. citizens children or if they're lawful permanent residents, they're going to be able to benefit from that. They're going to be able to remain with their families. Also, it's expanded the DACA, the children who've been here, who were brought here by the age of 16. It's expanded those who can take advantage of that program.
So how does the H-1B program work for certain immigrants?
Well, our system is so broken, and it has been with regard to those who have been here and were able to work legally. And we are hoping, again, the devil is in the details because they haven't yet been explained, but people who are here, for example, in the H-1B status, their wives or spouses or husbands are going to be able to work at a certain point in the process. We're hoping that earlier on, people are going to be able to take advantage of the system that has not, in fact, in the past, allowed them to move into these jobs. They'll be able to move into them sooner, which again is going to help the businesses that desperately need their work, their skills.
Well, I'm an immigrant's daughter, so how does this affect the parents of the dreamers? Those are the young immigrants brought here as children.
Well, that's a good question. It affects the dreamers in the fact that we've expanded, the program for the dreamers has been expanded. However, and unfortunately, it does not include their parents. And like you, I'm a parent, and that's it's a hard thing to understand.
Thank you, Leslie, for helping to educate us and create awareness of the upcoming evolution of immigration policies.
Thank you so much, Rosalie.
Florida is the 3rd largest populated state in the nation. So if you're considering new property options, the new Coldwell Banker Home Listing Report released can help you make the best decisions before your next move. From the most affordable to the most expensive, this new home price comparison tool is where to begin. Joining us this morning to share this new report is Budge Husky, President and CEO of Coldwell Banker Real Estate. Good morning, Budge.
Good morning, Rosalie. Delighted to be with you.
So what can you tell us about some average prices in some of our Florida cities?
Of course. Well, if you look at Florida overall, Florida was tended to be on the more affordable side. You did have Fort Lauderdale coming in at the number 660 in terms of the most expensive, but still that's well placed. You had Miami at 327,000 being the average, Fort Lauderdale 453,000 average. Florida, as we know, has seen a significant resurgence over the last 2 years in terms of the recovery. And it is at this point the 23rd most affordable state in the overall survey index.
So how do our markets compare to other cities within our state or in our nation?
Well, if you look at Florida overall, of course, you have a wide range of diversity, and we have, in fact, one of our most affordable cities in Florida being Lake Wales, with an average listing price for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath at only $82,000. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Palmetto Bay, which is coming in right at $499,000 is the average price. So, as we all know, Florida is not only an attractive place to live. I'm a Florida native, but it has such a wide variety of different product and values based on what the individual is looking for.
Okay, now for the bad news. Tell us the 10 most expensive cities in the U.S.
Well, it's probably not surprising that they all tend to be more coastal markets, but at the opposite side of the country, and 9 out of 10 are in California. The most expensive being in Northern California. Our number one this year was Los Altos, California, coming in at $1.96 million.
And now the 10 most affordable cities in the U.S.
We had at number one, the most affordable city was the Cleveland market with an average price of $65,000. And if you look at the most affordable markets around the country, they tended to be typically away from the coast, tend to be more the center of the country, and many of them are now located in the southern half of the country as well. And if you look at Cleveland, for example, you could buy 30 homes in Cleveland for the same price as one home in Los Altos.
All right, Bud, there are options out there for homeowners. So where can our viewers find more information?
They can find it at our website that's set up specifically for this at hlr.coldwellbanker.com. They need to go on and have some fun with the survey.
Thank you, Budge, for sharing your home listing report and how this tool will help Florida homeowners find new options.
Thank you very much.
Approximately 29 million Americans live with diabetes. Some develop hard-to-heal foot ulcers that increase the risk of developing additional ulcers and end in 75,000 amputations each year. Options for diabetic foot ulcers are limited, making it a challenge for both patients and healthcare professionals to effectively manage these wounds. Joining us this morning is Dr. Geer Dzerga to create awareness of this disease and its impact on those that it affects. Doctor, I know as my dad's caregiver, I watched his diabetes erode his body before my eyes.
Yes, Rosalie, that is absolutely correct. And diabetes, as you're pointing out, is a generalized disease of the body, and because oftentimes it's caused by local activities like eating and lack of exercise, or by genetics, it does indeed affect the family.
Most people don't know they even have diabetic foot ulcers.
Well, that's right, and one of the reasons is with diabetic foot ulcers, there is a reduction in the sensitivity of the foot. Sometimes there's no knowledge of pain. You don't feel anything. You might have redness. You might have some swelling, but you wouldn't know it unless you're looking at the bottom of your foot. And the next thing you know, the skin breaks down, and there's some drainage, and there's an ulcer, and sometimes it's the family members that actually notice this before the patient. Sometimes due to the odor.
It's as simple as going to the bathroom and bumping your foot on the commode, and it can cause a diabetic foot ulcer.
Oh, Absolutely. If I went to the bathroom and bumped my toe, I might get a bruise, I might get a little cut, and that'll all close. I'll be okay in a few days. But these patients with diabetes, that's not true. The skin will continue to break down, can actually form an ulcer, and the biggest problem, as you've pointed out, is about 1/4 of those individuals actually end up having additional therapy, including amputations. It's the most common cause of amputation in this country. And if an individual has an amputation, a toe, a foot, or leg because of a diabetic foot ulcer, unfortunately, 50% of those patients will pass away in 5 years. And Rosalie, that's a higher incidence of mortality than most cancers.
What symptoms do patients have that can lead to amputation?
Well, oftentimes we don't know. In my clinical experience, when patients come to seek medical care, it could be for other things. It could be because they have a problem with their vision or their kidney function. They're having to go to the bathroom more often. And it is only by talking to them and examining them do we actually take a look at the bottom of their feet and realize that they have sores that aren't healing, and we begin to focus on the diabetic foot ulcers.
What treatments are available to address diabetic foot ulcers, and do doctors still debride the wounds?
Yes, they do remove a tissue that is no longer viable or alive to allow the new tissue to heal, and that really is the basis of our new topical gel therapy that we're testing. The gel actually stimulates the cells to heal on their own, and we believe that if our study is successful, that individuals may have much more rapid healing of diabetic foot ulcers. And this is a study that's approved by the Food and Drug Administration. We're comparing the gel that has the active drug with the standard of care, including gel. And patients can learn about this through our website, gotfootsores.com.
So what advice can you offer us to keep our feet healthy?
Yes, I think it's really important about diet and exercise, having regular medical evaluations, and when your body changes, because of changes in lifestyle, pay attention to these things, and if in doubt, have someone take a look at you, especially your family physician, and if you become ill, seek medical care sooner rather than later.
Thank you, doctor, for educating our viewers and creating awareness of diabetic foot ulcers and how to care for our feet.
Well, thank you, Rosalie.
Atrial fibrillation is a common type of irregular heartbeat affecting 5 million Americans. AFib puts a person at 5 times greater risk of a stroke. 1 in 3 people with AFib will suffer a stroke during their lifetime. 2 studies were assessed at the American Heart Association's scientific session to reduce the risk of stroke. Here to share those findings is Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Todd Valines, Fellowship Program Director and Director of Cardiovascular Research at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Good morning, Doctor.
Hi, good morning, Rosalie.
So, Doctor, how does AFib prevent the heart from beating correctly?
Well, as you mentioned, atrial fibrillation is the most common heart rhythm problem. And what happens is the top chambers, called the atria, normally are in sync, if you will. They beat in a coordinated fashion. In atrial fibrillation, they just kind of fibrillate and kind of quiver. And so as a result of that, the normal flow of blood through the atrium is slowed. And as blood flow is slowed, there's a risk of forming small blood clots, which of course can lead to stroke, as you mentioned.
So is a person with irregular heartbeat at an increased risk for stroke?
Well, atrial fibrillation, the risk of it does increase as people get older, for sure. In fact, and what's most concerning also is not only the risk of stroke, but the strokes that patients suffer from atrial fibrillation tend to be larger strokes. They tend to cause more disability. And I think what's as a practicing cardiologist, what's important, I think, to put out to your viewers is that on appropriate therapy, the majority of these strokes-related atrial fibrillation can be prevented.
About 140,000 people a year have an AFib-related stroke in the U.S. Is it more prevalent in older persons?
Well, for the last almost 60 years, we've really only had one anticoagulant, or what's called a blood thinner, to reduce the risk of stroke. These drugs are extremely effective at reducing the risk of stroke, but unfortunately the one drug that we had was called warfarin, or Coumadin, had significant drug interactions, food interactions, is difficult to take, and it required very frequent monitoring of patients, requiring blood draws every 2 to 4 weeks on average. Most recently, over the last 4 years, we've developed newer and, in my opinion, more effective and safe therapies, what are called novel anticoagulants. And one of those is dabigatran, called Pradaxa, has now been available since 2010. That drug was approved by the FDA and has been widely utilized around the world. And that was really based on a very large clinical trial that was published in 2009. But I think within the military healthcare system, we have more than 10 million beneficiaries. And we wanted to look as, is this drug safe and effective since it's been released? I think we were obligated to really ask the tough questions. Is Pradaxa safe? Is it effective?
Tell us about the 2 studies and the important assessment to reduce the risk of stroke.
And so we performed a study looking at over 25,000 patients, half of which were taking Pradaxa, and we really followed them and really asked the question, which drug is more effective? And what we found was that users of Pradaxa, as compared to warfarin, when you compared them in a very systematic fashion, we found that there were significantly lower rates of stroke. In fact, about a 27% reduction in the risk of having a stroke for patients taking Pradaxa compared to warfarin. Importantly, also, there was a reduction in mortality or death in patients taking Pradaxa, and a decrease in bleeding events in those patients taking Pradaxa. So for us, this was very reassuring and very consistent with the findings in 2009, the large-scale clinical trial that led to the approval of Pradaxa. I think there are patients and providers who have used this drug or would consider using Pradaxa can be reassured by these findings.
So how will this new drug impact both patients and physicians?
Well, I think it's, in a lot of ways, we used to undertreat patients when we had warfarin. We found every reason in many cases not to use an anticoagulant, and they're extremely effective. They reduce the risk of stroke between 60 and 70%. And so we know that in prior years before these new drugs, in many cases only about half of patients who should have been on an anticoagulant or blood thinner were actually taking them. And so I think by having data like ours, data that shows that these drugs are effective, in fact more effective, that they're very safe, I think we'll see more providers and patients willing to be treated with these very effective drugs, and hopefully see that gap in the number of Americans who should be on an anticoagulant but aren't on an anticoagulant. We'll see that number go down, and so I think these drugs help in that area.
So, Doctor, where can our viewers find more information?
First off, if you have atrial fibrillation, you're not on an anticoagulant, go talk to your doctor. Go ask them about these new therapies such as Pradaxa. There's also some online resources such as the websites for the American Heart Association and for the American College of Cardiology that give them a lot of resources about atrial fibrillation in general and the treatments available for that.
Thank you, Dr. Villines, for sharing the findings of the 2 new studies to reduce the risk of strokes and save lives.
Oh, thank you so much.
For the past 11 years, Archer Disability Foundation and the Rosalie Archer Show teamed up with caring mentors at the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center for Disability Mentoring Day. A mentoring committee of teachers and hospital staff match up students with mentors from a variety of departments to give them hands-on experiences in the workplace. Human resource staff presents how to search and apply to a posted job or identify a volunteer opportunity. Christy McKillop, Associate Director at the VA Medical Center in West Palm Beach, proudly shared some impressive employment statistics.
We actually have more than 35% of our employees are veterans. I don't know if you all knew that. So almost 800 people out of our 2,500 people are veterans. So it's really important that we get out there and see what other services are being provided to our veterans. We call this place a small city, and it certainly is.
Each year, Mary Ann Goodman, Public Affairs Officer at the VA Medical Center in West Palm Beach, coordinates weeks in advance with Rosalie Productions and the VA's media services to interview a VA employee dedicated to increasing the quality of life for other veterans. Behind the scenes, Corey Bullard, audio-video specialist at the VA in West Palm Beach, joins in to mentor volunteer videographer Pat Archer. Corey helps Pat set up an interview with Connie Gallen, vocational rehabilitation coordinator and passionate veteran who works to assess incoming veterans.
I work at the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center under Social Work Services, the Compensated Work Therapy program here. We work with disabled veterans to help them to reintegrate with the workforce in the community as well as at the medical center. We see a lot of veterans who have solid skills and abilities, but their resume and their presentation, there's some things that we may need to work on, maybe getting a haircut, maybe looking at a bus pass for transportation. It is very challenging for some of them to, per se, come back and reintegrate with us. And so what we try to do is offer them assurance that we've been there, we understand, and to talk about our successes and how successful we've been with placing our veterans in employment in the community as well as at the VA.
And give me an idea of the range of different disabilities that these vets are coming to you with.
A lot of our veterans have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and ranging from some mild and some major where it really affects them as far as transitioning back to employment. We have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. We work with veterans who have the physical disabilities, some who are missing limbs. We have veterans who are visually impaired. Any disability that is going to be an occupational barrier to you, then that's where we want to address to help you to become more marketable.
So Connie, tell me more about the compensated work program here at the VA Medical Center.
One of the aspects of the program, again, goes along to follow along support. Not only do we assess them and we put them in the program that's going to best fit their skills, but we also offer support daily with them. The veterans also receive a 30-day evaluation from the site manager, which we review with them and we talk about how is this going to transition or how is this going to translate to realistic work in the community. You're out of the military now, and you're a civilian now, and sometimes that's a transition.
How did you get so passionate about this, and how did you get your job at the VA Medical Center?
I guess the passion comes because I am a veteran. I'm a disabled veteran, and I work with the vocational rehabilitation program myself to be able to work here and transition to employment. Fantastic opportunity to get my education, and also now I'm giving back from the services that I received.
Connie, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your service and the good work you're doing in rehabilitation at the VA Medical Center in West Palm Beach.
Identify resources to help you stay debt-free this year, or if needed, right-size your home to increase your daily worth. Life is full of opportunities. Knowing freedom is not free, but feeling gratitude towards others is. Honor those who protect and inspire us, be it educators, doctors, or mentors. Encouraging others to be their best offers hope to attain the freedom of choice. Share with us how a mentor increased your options to be your best at facebook.com/Rosalie Show or visit us at rosaliearchershow.com. And we'll see you soon.